Edinburgh, the capital of Scotland by a regal right and by beauty also, is for the lowland people their big town. Auld Reekie they call it affectionately, and many of them don't realise that their city is famous throughout the world as a jewel among European capitals. Edinburgh was mine own romantic town to Sir Walter Scott, and it is so steeped in history and legend that romantic is the only word to describe it, though modern too applies equally as well. A sightseer will surely want to see Mons Meg, a powerful cannon overlooking the Firth of Forth that was forged from iron before Christopher Columbus began his famous travels. A guide would point out to him the Royal Mile, better known to the Scotch as a mile of memories, for 700 years of their country's history has marched down that way. And he'd make note of St. Giles Cathedral, the high kirk of Edinburgh, where John Knox once preached his fiery sermons. One of the world's greatest bridges, this one spanning the Firth of Forth, though only railroad trains travel across it, for sheer glamour, the bridge is in a class with San Francisco's Golden Gate and New York's George Washington. For good luck, it is traditional to toss a penny in the water from the bridge. Two distinguished sons of Scotland made famous this border section of the country they both loved so well. Their names, Robert Burns and Sir Walter Scott, two great popular figures who enriched the lands where they lived and toiled with characters as immortal as themselves. Robert Burns was born in Ayr, here in a humble thatch-roofed cottage that has become more famous than any other building in Scotland, including her castles. Tourists to Ayr include in their itinerary a pilgrimage to Brigadoon, the bridge that figures in Burns' greatest poem, Tam O'Shanter. To Burns, his beautiful countryside was something to sing about, but to farmers it's economically important too, with its rich grain lands and its herds of Ayrshire cattle. In the heart of the Scottish lowlands, the town of Dumfries is known as the Queen of the South, and to the Scottish people it is sacred, for here their beloved Rabbie Burns died at the age of 37. In this house the ploughman died in 1796. His poverty-stricken youth no doubt shortened Burns' life, but it also moulded the genius of Scotland's romantic poet of nature. Here he lies buried, but in the hearts of his countrymen, Burns lives on. Sir Walter Scott's country lies to the east, along the border. Of all the views in Europe, he loved this one best, 3 hilly peaks and the river Tweed at his feet. The River Tweed, incidentally, is known as an angler's paradise. Fishermen were casting for trout here long before Scott was born, and they're still hard at it today. It looks peaceful and purposeful today, this quietly beautiful borderland, but British historians can tell a different story of raids and gunfire and bitter fighting in the turbulent years of Scotland's fight for freedom. Little by little, as money trickled in from the sale of his books, Scott built up his country home, Abbotsford, on the banks of the Tweed. Nearby are the ruins of Edinburgh Abbey, where, beneath an arch, Sir Walter Scott was laid to rest. Of all Scotland's abbeys, Melrose is the most famous. Somewhere there among the ruins, in a secret hiding place, lies the brave heart of Scotland's warrior king, Robert the Bruce. For centuries, the abbey bells rang out over the wild borderlands, while the abbots preached the gospel of love in a land of strife. St. Andrews, in central Scotland, is a golfer's paradise. Here the Committee of the Royal and Ancient rules the golfing world with a club of iron. Any golfer who has ever lost a ball, and who hasn't, would surely be tempted to kidnap one of St Andrew's retrievers, which actually search lost balls by scent and bring them back to their master. Now that's pure luxury to any golfer. A ditty celebrating the St Andrew's golfers proclaims that rich and poor alike are smitten with the fever, their business and religion is to play, and a man is scarcely deemed a true believer unless he does at least a round a day. St Andrews is also famous for its university, where the students wear gay scarlet gowns. Somehow the scholars manage to concentrate on their studies, even when they choose to work amid the romantic ruins of a castle. John Knox was once captured here by the French and sent to sea as a galley slave. From St Andrews, it's an easy run up into the land of famous castles. As you travel along, you will often spy on the great walls above you the coats of arms of many a noble family. Looks like a picture straight from a book of fairy tales, but it's real all right. Glamis Castle, the girlhood home of Britain's Queen Elizabeth. There is more magic and mystery in the heart of Scotland than anywhere else on earth. Picturesque Loch Lomond was once the stormy centre of some of the most tragic pages in Scotland's history. For here on an island, Mary Queen of Scots was once imprisoned. Where the main road to the Highlands crosses the Forth, you'll find Stirling Castle, commanding a view of the valley from its rocky eminence. For the northbound traveller, the wide-spreading county of Perthshire marks the beginning of the Highlands. For the erudite, the Trossachs Mountains have many a famous literary association, and for the weary tourist, the Trossachs Hotel is a special treat. You know you are truly in the Highlands when you run into a Scots mist, or when you come across the black-faced Highland sheep herded by the industrious shepherds with their dogs. These are the bonny banks of Loch Lomond. This territory was long ago the home grounds of the fierce MacGregor clan, whose most famous member was that Robin Hood of Scotland, Rob Roy. The waters of the loch are icy cold. Legend has it that when one of Rob Roy's prisoners refused to talk, he would dangle the prisoner in these waters, a chilly and effective sort of third degree. Poets, novelists and songwriters have woven a romantic web around these lochs and mountains and the peoples who inhabit them. All the charm and fascination of the fabled Highlands is reflected in the face of a wee Scotch lassie attending a traditional Highland gathering. The Scottish national dress evolved naturally as a costume suited to the needs of a mountain people. Both costumes and dances have become colourful symbols of the intense racial pride and brotherhood that the clan system bred in the Scottish people. The Reel Tullach is only one of many thrilling and romantic Highland folk dances, all of them, of course, performed to the lilting music of the bagpipes. Out at sea, beyond the span of that bridge, are the 500 or so islands of the Hebrides, which are the tops of submerged mountain ranges. And there, once, came a day when a French frigate dropped anchor among these islands and landed bonny Prince Charlie on the Isle of Ayrshire. The year of that landing, you ask? No, you're sure you wouldn't have been knowing that for yourself. Why, it was the year 1745, of course, the glorious 45. Charles Edward Stuart had come to Scotland to oust George II from the throne of Scotland. and this is where he hoped his ship would come home, at Glenfinnan, on the banks of Loch Shiel, where there was to be a great gathering of the clansmen. Furtively, he came in a rowing boat to spend the night in a shepherd's cottage, anxiously awaiting the clansmen to join him on the morrow. Here stands today a column atop which Bonnie Prince Charlie looks to the north for the coming of his Highlanders. In 1746, an historic battle at Culloden decided the fate of Prince Charles. Final defeat, another dream at an end. The gravestones of Prince Charles' faithful clansmen can still be found in the heather-covered fields outside Culloden. Very near this spot is Macbeth's castle, famous in Shakespeare's tragedy. In such a setting, Duncan, King of Scotland, was murdered. Listen, was that a scream of terror? Look, was that a white face at the window? The castle is bleak and eerie. Anything might have happened there, and perhaps could still happen. To the Scotsman, his country is the most romantic on earth. Lucky is the traveller who discovers this land of great and moving beauty, Scotland.